Do you have something to say? Are there people who want or need to hear from you? Have you always wanted to start a podcast but don't know where to start? Welcome to Resonate Media, where our mission is to amplify you. At Resonate Media, we focus on helping underrepresented voices and aspiring podcasters get started by providing equipment, expertise, and experience to help you launch a podcast. To get started, visit ResonateMediaPro.com. Don't let the confusion, complications, and costs of hosting, recording, editing, and distribution hold you back. The world needs to hear what you have to say. Resonate Media can help your voice be heard.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to All Things Episcopal, where we talk about anything and everything related to the Episcopal Church. This podcast was designed with young people in mind and as a space to learn more about the Christian faith with the Episcopal lens. So in traditionally Episcopalian greeting fashion, the Lord be with you. Hey friends, we are taking All Things Episcopal podcast out into the wild today. I am currently in Elmdale, Kansas, what seems to be in the middle of nowhere. I think it's the Flint Hills. Am I right? Yeah. Right. Okay. I'm geographically impaired, folks. So thanks be to God for friends that join us along the way and help direct us. For those that don't have that skill or gift of navigation, you get my point. So we are recording today's episode from Episcopal Mega Camp, which is a week-long camp for completed third graders all the way through completed 12th grade. All grade levels are together for 1 week of faith, fun, fellowship, and just the beauty of connection. And this year, both the Diocese of Kansas and West Missouri are partnering on camp. And we have staff that are serving at camp this year that have both been peer ministers at campus ministries, but have also been campers themselves. So we wanted to talk to them about how camp life has then influenced their interest in campus ministry. So this is an episode completely full of all things young people, all things Episcopal, and all things we'll see what happens. So I am joined today by three wonderful college students or recent college grads. Yay! Congratulations. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Josh, let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Josh McCall. I am an incoming second year at Wichita State, and I'm currently the peer minister for the Wichita area. And right now I'm staffing elementary.
I'm Suzanne Avery, and I was a peer minister at K-State. I just graduated with a degree in architectural engineering, and I was a peer minister all 4 years at K-State.
Yeah, and I'm Brandon Kermer. I also just graduated from K-State. I was a peer minister at K-State, got my master's in architecture, and I kind of have a unique perspective of having the Diocese of Kansas, being a peer minister, and then also going to church on the West Missouri side.
Fantastic. And for our listeners, can we go back around in the same order and you all tell us which parish you grew up in and if you know the diocese that you grew up in?
I grew up in St. Thomas the Apostle in Overland Park, and that's in the Diocese of Kansas.
And I grew up in Wichita at Good Shepherd, and that's the Diocese of Kansas.
And I grew up at St. Andrews in Kansas City, Missouri, and that's the Diocese of West Missouri.
Fantastic. And for our listeners, because I can't make up my mind about things, I am canonically resident in the Diocese of Kansas, so that my sending parish is the same one as Josh's, but I have served for the last 3.5 years up until yesterday, June 1, at Grace and Holy Trinity Episcopal Cathedral as the Children, Youth, and College Minister in the Diocese of Kansas. So I like to float between both worlds. I like to eat my cake and eat it too. Or have my cake and eat it too. There we go. So I want to ask each of you a standard question that we've been asking almost all of our guests. How did you end up in this wonderfully weird, wholly chaotic community known as the Episcopal Church, a band of contrite misfits with some specific liturgical colors, different practices of piety, like genuflecting, kneeling, standing, all the things. But we'd love to hear about your interests outside of church and what makes you come alive. So, first let's start with, how did you find yourself in the Episcopal Church?
I had the pleasure of being born into the Episcopal Church, so I don't have much of a choice. But I remember when it was time for my confirmation, because I went through confirmation at St. Thomas. And my parents said, Josh, we know you don't like coming to church on Sundays. It's early, so you don't have to go through this route. Confirmation is your time to say, I do like the Episcopal Church, or it's not for me. And I remember I said, I'll take the classes and we'll see what happens. And I was taking the classes and I was learning more about the history of my church itself and then the history of the Episcopal Church. I'm like, this just feels right. I can't imagine myself anywhere else. I feel I need to do this. And that's how I'm here.
Love it.
I was the same as Josh. I grew up in the Episcopal Church. My parents went to Good Shepherd and my grandparents also went there. So, it's just in the family.
And I know this is going to be a surprise, but I was also born in the Episcopal Church. But the question I get a lot is like, Brandon, you live in Kansas. Why do you go on the Missouri side? But St. Andrews has been in the family for several generations. My parents were married there. My grandparents were married there. Even my great-grandparents were married there. So it's a long-standing history, but it makes sense if I explain it.
This is so exciting for me to hear because it is very rare that I am amongst the majority of what most people call cradle Episcopalians, like where you've grown up in the church. Most people that I interact with, they have found the Episcopal Church when they're in their college years or just after. So this is like a real treat for me. Some people will claim for me that I am cradle Episcopalian, but also not at the same time because I found the church when I was 9. So debatable. We'll take votes later on.
Close enough.
So what also brings you joy, brings you life? What interests you outside of church stuff?
I somehow this is always going to tie its way back to the church. I find great joy in music. I go to school for music. I want to be a choir teacher when I grow up one day. That's the end goal. And I found that through, drumroll please, the Episcopal Church, children's choir growing up. And I'm like, this is so fun. I quit baseball because I'm like, I want to sing more. I did musical theater growing up and said, I want to sing more. And I did it and I love it. And so, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I also have a strong passion for music. Played the tenor saxophone in elementary school, middle school, high school, even in college a little bit. But besides that, love soccer, love everything K-State, sports.
Yeah, I love sports and watching sports, playing sports, all those things. I like organizing and cleaning, doing puzzles.
Did you just get a new Dyson vacuum too?
I did, yeah.
One of those smart Roombas that
yeah.
sucks all of the nastiness from the filter up into a tower.
And it does it all for you.
Yes, it's bringing me so much joy.
Yeah.
So much joy. And because perfection is overrated and boring, if you would each share a glorious, unfun fact about yourself, the weirder, the better. All are welcome here.
I don't know if this is an unfun fact. My campers are having over. I have a weird obsession with the Peanuts, specifically Snoopy, the Charles Schultz characters.
Yeah.
My whole cabin, I have Snoopy pictures and posters placed all over the wall. All of my campers are drawn on my poster as Woodstock, and I draw my Snoopy. Love the Peanuts, the whole shtick, Charlie Brown.
Oh, that's awesome.
When I was at K-State, I talked about how that was 5 years ago. No, I was 2 weeks ago. The architecture building is right across the campus, or right across from the K-State Union, and there's a coffee shop in the K-State Union. And of course, being an architecture major, you drink lots of caffeine. But it even got to the point where every time I'd walk into the coffee shop, there'd be times where they'd already be making my order. They had my order memorized down to a T. It just a matter of what size I wanted that day. So,
Love it.
My unfun fact about me is that I am currently couch shopping for a sectional.
Is it bringing you joy, though?
It is, yes. I'm very excited. I have one that I really like right now, but I'm waiting to make sure it's the right one.
Fair. You don't want to have buyer's remorse.
Yes, exactly.
That is completely fair. I don't know if I've actually answered this question on the podcast myself. I love shoes. I love shoes contrary to how I dress most days, which is like with leggings and tennis shoes and a t-shirt most of the time. But I love shoes. Yeah. Well, thanks, Vince.
Yeah.
I actually find you very, very interesting. And it was not boring. Okay, so let's kick this episode off. How did you first get involved with Episcopal summer camp? Was it something you chose, or did someone nudge you into it? You know, was it a yes and?
Kind of a mix of all three, I guess. Growing up in the Episcopal Church, I had a lot of friends my age. Specifically, one of my best friends growing up was Ashadima, who was the priest kid. So every time he'd go do something, that's how I got involved in the Diocese total was camp and doing this. All of my church friends had gone to camp, and they said, Josh, they're all a year older than me. I didn't have any friends my age. So they're like, Joe, you gotta come to camp. You gotta come to camp. I'm like, yeah, but I won't be able to hang out with you guys. I gotta be with my own camp. And they're like, trust us, you're gonna love camp. So I what's the word I'm thinking of? Reluctantly, there we go. Asked my parents, and I said, I think I want to go try camp. And they said, you sure? It's a week long. It's a long time. And they said, yeah, why not? We do it. And I came here. I loved it. And I think this is my 10th year at camp. I think I did the math. Yeah.
Wow. So how many more years are you allowed to serve then?
I think I'm allowed to serve until I'm old and gray.
Yeah.
It's my 10th year coming to camp. First year as a counselor. But I went to 9 years as a camper.
Fantastic. A loyal following. Love loyal following. Okay, so Suzanne, Brandon, whomever wants to go first and respond to that, how did you find yourself at camp? Did someone encourage you to come, or did you just willingly come to this crazy, chaotic place that's wonderful?
So I have two brothers, and they both went to camp for multiple years before I did, and they loved it so much that they tried for a couple years to get me to come, but it took me a little while to finally actually do it. So they really encouraged me.
My story's not as glamorous. I knew about the Episcopal summer camp in West Missouri when I was younger, but I never actually got involved with it. But this is my second year being on staff for Camp Wood. I kept getting nudged by several people in the diocese, including Suzanne and her family, that I should be on staff. And so last year was my first time, and it was a great time. I wasn't here for the full time, but this year I made it a priority to be here for the full time. So
He regretted not coming for the full time last year.
this may be correct.
I will admit, this year I have a little bit of FOMO. I really want to be here, but
You're here in spirit.
Yeah.
You're here right
You're
now.
here right now, yeah.
I'm here now, right?
This was a fun fact. My senior year, Brandon was my counselor.
Oh, really?
No way.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, so for the half week he was here, he was in my cabin for my senior year.
You were
Yeah.
right. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I did not realize that.
It's coming full circle.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
here.
super fun.
I'm here for it.
Wow.
Not to make you feel.
It's only a year ago.
I know.
I was about to say, I think I'm seeing some gray.
Oh.
Okay, so looking back, how did your initial camp experiences shape how you think about faith or spirituality?
That's a tough one. For me, back when elementary did healing services was the first time I felt like I'd been actually like super vulnerable in the church, and it was the acceptance of those around me and specifically the adults that were present during that made me feel like this is a safe place. I want to keep coming back here, and that really kind of tied me down.
I would say that seeing that there's like other people my age that are Episcopal, because in my specific church, there wasn't very many of us in the youth program. And so coming here and seeing a whole bunch of people that are of similar faith as me.
For me right now, it's like being able to come here and see God's creation around us. Like when you're at college, you don't really get a ton of time to like sit back and just be still, which is kind of the theme that we talked about yesterday in our program for senior high. So it kind of fits well. But like we were even sitting outside while we were discussing that, and like there was a nice like little breeze going on while the sunset was going down. So it was a great time to be still.
I think one of the beautiful things about Episcopal Mega Camp in particular is that there are these moments when the mystics will say you're in a thin space where you can feel heaven and earth like meet together. And I feel like so many of those small moments, like you were talking about, Brandon, reflection and slowing down, are built into the camp experience, and just being present is such a gift. And that's how we kind of develop this beautiful thing called a spiritual life. And it's organic, and thank God for it, that we can have this small touchstone of the holy, right?
Definitely.
Mhm.
So going from camp life to college life can be a big shift. How was that transition for you? And did getting involved in campus ministry help with that change?
For me, at least, getting started, because I just started college last year. I just completed my first year. At least for the first month or so, it felt kind of similar to camp, where like there's always something happening. There's not a whole lot of downtime. You're trying to get your footing, figuring everything out. But the more I got involved, the more I did things, the more it felt more like home, kind of like how this place does now. Currently, there isn't anything for college ministry at Wichita right now. I'm trying to work and figure something out to get that going. But I don't have the opportunity to go to an Episcopal church every Sunday because I sing in the choir at another church. But I still need that Episcopal. So my first week before I started that job, I went into St. Stephen's because it was the closest Episcopal church to campus. And I sat down and I was immediately welcomed by people who I'd never seen before. And I think I started volunteering with the youth group that day. And to this day, I still help with the youth group, and I go and I'm one of the youth leaders there just because it still feels like home. Even though it is so far away from where I grew up, it's still home, and it kind of helps ground me.
Yeah.
If I'm having a rough time during the semester, I'm like, it's okay. I have youth group on Sunday. We can figure it out.
Yeah.
I think I love telling this story because I want people to be able to learn from maybe my mistake. I came from like a pretty active youth group before going to college, and then went to college. Of course, it was like right at the time of COVID was hitting too, so that played into it as well. But my freshman year, I didn't really get active at the Episcopal Church in Manhattan because honestly, I didn't really know there was an Episcopal Church in Manhattan. And I also didn't fully realize that there was also a campus ministry at K-State. So that freshman year, I kind of felt a void in what I was doing just because I went from this active youth group to absolutely nothing at that point. And then I went to the activities carnival and then saw like the Episcopal logo on a banner on one of the tables. I'm like, hey, I recognize that. And then the rest is history after that. I joined the campus ministry, and it definitely changed my college experience, which has been fantastic.
Yeah. I love that.
That's great.
My first year of college was really hard for me because it was hard to live away from my family and my parents for the first time. But that first year, my older brother was living at the K-State Canterbury house. And so having that house to go to that first year and just hang out there with him and at the time, the program assistant who was in charge of the house, and just have that community and an actual house to go to really helped that transition.
I went to a public university, and we didn't have campus ministry or a Canterbury house or anything, but there was a priest that was newly ordained that would bring Eucharist to campus once a week in the Interfaith Center. And I remember thinking that that was so special because I was kind of in this period of life where I wasn't really sure about church, but I was sure about the Episcopal Church because I'm like, okay, these people are cool. And doesn't matter where I go, we're going to be using the same liturgy. So it's like a common lexicon, a common understanding of what to do, when to do it, things like that, with slight variations depending on how high or low church your parish is. I resonate a little bit each and every way with y'all's stories. So thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that. My next question is, can you think of a moment, either at camp or in campus ministry, that really challenged you or helped you grow in faith in a new way?
At camp, I feel like everywhere you turn, you see God. Like, it's kind of hard not to feel God whenever you're here. And I really felt that for the first time years and years or years ago, like maybe a year or so before COVID, which doesn't feel like it was years and years and years ago. But
I know, can you believe it was 5?
that's, I don't even want to mess with that. We were up on Highway. So at camp, we have, we call it Mega Eucharist up on Highway, which is a big stone, not circle, but it's like an amphitheater. And we do a big Eucharist with all 3 camps together. And it's a very, very special moment. And I remember this year in particular, there was a really big storm coming in from behind us. So, you're facing that, you can't see the storm, and everyone said, "Oh my God, look, there's lightning!" And you turn around, and it's like the most gorgeous picture you've ever seen in the sky. And at that moment, I'm just like, I knew that God was there, and I've felt Him every step I take here since. It really just kind of clicked for me.
Yeah.
For me, it was at K-State Canterbury, and we go every fall semester. We go on a hike on the Conza Trail, kind of in the evening when like the sun's setting, just as a kind of a way to get out of the house for once, maybe a little bit. And this past year, we had Father Sean. I think he's from Abilene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
St. John's.
Yeah. He joined us for that, and he brought a new perspective to it. I've always enjoyed that hike just because like it's so peaceful. I've just talked about being still, so like I'm still on that kind of same topic. But Father Sean talked about you can see all the different layers of sediment building up on all of the hills there, and like who was responsible for like piling all those layers up. So obviously there's somebody there. So that like totally kind of changed my perspective on the creation around us.
I would say that kind of going back to like coming to camp for the first time, that really helped me grow personally, to like kind of take that big step to actually come. And then to like opening myself up to coming opened me up to like everything else for the whole week.
Yeah. Holy Spirit gets what she wants, no matter what. But I'm glad that it was a positive experience, though. Very, very glad that it was. So college is full of big questions and tough stuff, real stuff that we might not have experienced in high school. How has being part of an Episcopal community, be it camp or college, helped you figure out things in life, help you feel grounded? And go.
College was really, really scary. I was ready to move out of home, and then I got there and I realized kind of what I'd done to myself. I went where I didn't know anybody. That was my plan. It's like, I'm not going to know. Anyway, it's a fresh start. And then I got there, I'm like, I don't know anybody. This is a fresh start. That's scary.
Yeah.
I had no family in town. I knew very, very few people, and all of them I would ever interact with usually. So I'm actually really, really grateful to the community of St. Stephen's, because I went to church the first time and was just kind of reminded that there are still people there who are in my corner, even if they're not always there. And I'm really grateful for the church for that, because doesn't matter where you go, you are supported by the church. And I've felt that as a young person in the church. And that's a great feeling to have.
Having K-State Canterbury be something that happens on like a routine every Monday night, we get together for free food and fellowship is kind of our phrase this past year. It's kind of served as a way to like ground myself at the start of each week. I remember, especially when you, Claire, came to Canterbury, was that October?
Yeah.
I had just gotten off like one of my like architecture reviews at that point, and I came back to the house like pretty irritated because I went overtime by quite a bit. And that night that you brought, I think your program was like a meditation. That was perfect timing, that moment. And like by the end of the program, like I was calm at that point.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad it served you well.
Yeah, very well.
Mine's kind of the same answer as just the routine. I really like having a routine, and that just helps every Monday night to, again, just start off the week in community and with a group of people that are supporting you.
I'm trying to remember when I was in college. I think the thing that grounded me most, and this is going to be totally liturgical nerdiness, as you all know that I'm a liturgical nerd. But because at the time I was doing a lot of interfaith work and interfacing with people of a lot of diverse backgrounds, for me, receiving Holy Eucharist every week grounded me in my own tradition for why I engage with so many people who are different than myself in identity and religious belief, things like that, because it reminded me that I could see God and see the face of Jesus in other people who might not say that Jesus is their Lord and Savior like I said it for me, because it just works for me. So
I love that.
Yeah. Kind of circling back to camp a little bit, are there any camp lessons, spiritual practices, or just good life habits you still hold on to in your college or now post-college young adult life?
I don't remember who it was or really what year it was because I've just been doing it for so long. We had, I think it was during worship because we have program, we have worship every day at all 3 camps. And it's not, sometimes it's like an actual church service, but sometimes just here's different ways to, I like, the whole point of our whole program this year is, different ways to go about worship or go about the church. And I don't remember who it was, but someone told me, it's like, sometimes you just gotta just breathe and just breathe. So every time I'm frustrated or like something's not going my way or like, I just need help. I don't remember who taught me that, but I do it every single day, multiple times a day, but it's very, very helpful. I can't think of that.
Yeah. I had a similar experience. Former boss of mine, he would always start staff meeting, and the staff at the church that I worked at, I think was close to 50 people. And during COVID, we would all have to join on Zoom, and he would always say, breathe in God's mercies, breathe out God's mercies to the whole world. And I catch myself doing that, especially when I'm entering a space that I either don't know about or feel very unsure about. So I definitely appreciate the pause, the breathe, and let the Holy just do its thing. So, Brandon, Suzanne, thoughts? And it can be silly too. It doesn't have to be super theological or anything like that.
One of the things that we usually do at most of our our staff meetings is the program director or camp director of each camp will ask what level your canteen is at. And so that's just kind of something that I've taken to assess myself throughout the day of how low is my canteen and how do I fill it back up before it gets too low.
Self-care.
Yep.
Here for the win. Brandon, what about you?
I'm not sure I can really think of anything right this second, just because I don't have the camp experience that these other two have, but I'm looking forward to trying to figure out what life after campus ministry looks like now that I'm going into the full adult life.
If I had to learn something from camp in particular, it would be sunscreen. Sunscreen and bug spray.
Okay, I just thought of something. Drink more water, because I just...
Yeah, the other thing with the canteen level is literally how full is your canteen with water?
Yeah. Right.
I give a challenge to my campers today. I said, I challenge each of you to drink 2.5 bottles of water.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know if it's working.
Feeding the competitive side.
Yeah, well, it's working, I think. We'll find out.
We'll pray that it's working. Okay. What's the biggest difference and maybe the biggest similarity between the community you found at camp and what you've experienced at campus ministry? And you can speak to this from both the camper perspective or camp staff perspective. Because you, Brandon, I've only served on staff. I've never been a camper myself. So I see you. I hear you.
I feel a little bit better now.
That's hard because right now there isn't a real solid campus ministry at Wichita. It's me and whoever I can force to come with me and just do Copland or something at night. But camp, I remember my camp friends helped me through every struggle at camp, whether it was I didn't like the food in the dining hall, I didn't get enough food, or I was sunburnt, or whatever. But my camp friends became my camp family, and a lot of those people became my camp family outside of camp. They became my spiritual family, my church family. And I'm really hoping to kind of cultivate that same kind of community in Wichita with whatever we end up doing.
And then, Suzanne, let's start with you. What is the biggest difference and maybe biggest similarity between the community you found at camp versus campus ministry?
So the biggest difference, I would say, is that at camp, you're here for a full week and with the same people every single day for the whole day. And campus ministry, it's usually only once a week, maybe even twice a week that you're seeing these people. So you really have to be intentional about reaching out to the people you're around versus at camp, you're kind of forced to be together every day.
Forced family fun.
Yes.
I'll go with the similarity on this one. So at K-State, as a peer minister, you're tasked with helping lead program whether that be Monday, whenever you have program. And you lead program, you go through a whole bunch of discussion questions based on what you just talked about. And we do that very similarly here. We'll have a program and then we'll split up into our family groups and then dive deeper into some discussion questions to maybe get the youth thinking a little bit deeply about their spiritual life.
For sure. For sure. And then we're down to our last two questions. If you could dream up the future of Episcopal camps and campus ministry, what would that look like? More retreats, perhaps more memes, a hell of a lot more snacks. Am I allowed to say that? I think I'm allowed to say that. Maybe the unofficial eighth sacrament of the church, aka coffee, or third one, if you think it's that. Yeah. What would you dream up?
Like as a whole or for the diocese?
Go with what you feel.
Honestly, I would I had the privilege of going to EYE a few years ago, which was so cool because it was like camp, but bigger. And so I came back and I'm like, I want camp, but bigger. I think the best thing we could do is just the bigger the scale, the better for our youth and for our young adults. All youth and young adults want to is to be, or at least I wanted to, was to be taken seriously when I felt I was just as serious as all the adults in my parish. And I didn't feel dismissed, but I felt like I wasn't always heard as much as I felt like I could have been. Mm-hmm. So I've always been a big advocate for youth on vestries and youth having a say and the voice in the church. So the bigger the scale for and the bigger the opportunities for our youth and young adults, I think that's my dream, is that we all get the same opportunities, I guess.
Preach.
I got pretty much the same exact answer as you. Bigger and better.
I think they're obviously doing something right here at Camp Wood, because if you have all these people who went through the youth program and are now coming back to be on staff, I think that tells everything of how successful this has been. But one thing I will say is I need an espresso machine. I don't do black coffee. I do espresso.
Taking notes now.
Yeah.
Maybe I add that to the K-State Canterbury House.
Yeah, there you go.
One way or another. We'll fundraise for that. Okay. And our last question. What would you say to someone who's on the fence about trying camp or checking out an Episcopal group in college? Why do you think it's worth it?
There's a lot of things you could say, but I think first and foremost is, what do you have to lose? You're never going to find a more welcoming or accepting group. And if you decide it's not for you, it's not for you, but it's going to be pretty hard to decide it's not for you, I think. I've never felt anything but welcome or home anytime I do anything where I'm surrounded by people from the Episcopal Church. So just go for it, I guess.
Yeah.
Mine's kind of the same thing as like, you don't know what you don't know. So go and try it and step out of your comfort zone and see what it's all about.
I would say absolutely do it. I wish I would have gotten involved earlier on, because I feel like I definitely missed out on a few things, but I'm kind of trying to make up for that being on staff. And like this year, I even got my brother roped into coming, so he's here as a youth. So it's kind of cool to be on staff while he's on youth too.
Making disciples. We love it. All right. Well, Josh, Brandon, Suzanne, thank you so much for sharing about your experience of both camp and campus ministry. I'd love to have you back on the podcast about anything and everything related to the Episcopal Church. Whatever's sparking you joy about being an Episcopalian these days. And as I like to say, because we are a people of prayer, we are a prayer book people, I'm wondering if one of you would be willing to read one of the collects for either for young people or for college students. I mean, if you don't want to read aloud, I can.
Sure, I'd love to. God, our Father, you see your children growing up in an unsteady and confusing world. Show them that your ways give more life than the ways of the world, and that the following you is better than chasing after selfish goals. Help them to take failure not as a measure of their worth, but as a chance for a new start. Give them strength to hold their faith in you and to keep alive their joy in your creation. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
All right, friends. Well, thank you so much for joining us out in the wild in the Flint Hills of Kansas. Okay, I'm getting there, folks. And we'll we'll catch you next time. All right. Peace be with you all.
Peace
Peace with you.
Hey friends, thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about all things Episcopal on the Diocese of West Missouri's communication pages, please visit diowest.org/podcasts/. And in the Diocese of Kansas, please visit edokformation.wordpress.com/All Things Episcopal Podcast. All Things Episcopal Podcast is a production of the Diocese of West Missouri and the Diocese of Kansas, in association with Resonate Media.
Looking for fresh ideas to lead your church in today's changing world? Check out the Future Christian podcast. Each episode features pastors, authors, and faith leaders sharing practical wisdom on ministry, technology, and tackling challenges like pastoral burnout. Whether you're a pastor, church leader, or passionate about your faith, we're here to inspire and equip you for impactful ministry. Listen now on your favorite podcast platform.